All right, guys, this is the Unit 8.2 video. We are in this packet on page 5. Today's learning target is I can find the missing sides of right triangles using what we learned about last time, trig functions. All right, that is what we are doing today. Okay, so this is just a reminder what we did last class. This is SOHCAHTOA. These are our different ratios for our three trig functions. So sine, this stands for sine, cosine, and tangent. This stands for opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent. So if you're a little bit iffy on that, I would watch the 8.1 video first. But let's go over a few of these just as a review. Okay, let me use a couple different colors because there's a couple different letters here. So for instance, if we were looking at this triangle and I asked you a question like this, what is sine of A? Okay, I could circle A. This is my reference point. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So this would be my opposite side because it's opposite the triangle. This would be my hypotenuse. So it would be 4 over 5. Opposite over hypotenuse. Now what if I asked you for the sine of B? This would be my reference point. What is opposite B? 3. What is the hypotenuse? Still 5. Again, if you are still struggling on that, I would go back to 8.1, but that's just a quick review. So now what we're introducing is we're actually finding a missing side. Here they gave us all 3 sides to begin with, and we were just supposed to find the ratio. Here we're finding a missing side. So let's talk about what that would look like. Here's how you're always going to write an equation. You're always going to have one of these types. Obviously, we're using sine here because we talked about sine. But you would have to figure it out in the first place. Let's actually do that. So for instance, if this is my angle measure right here, okay, that's my reference point. So let me label my triangle based on my reference point. So across from the triangle, that is going to be the opposite side. This is going to be the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. And this is the adjacent side. Okay. So if you look at this picture, there are 3 sides of the triangle. One of them is completely blank. These are the 2 we're actually working with, right? Adjacent is completely blank, so it's useless. We're not using it. So which of these 3 use the letters O and H? Sine. Okay, so that informs us that we're going to start our equation with sine, S-I-N. Right after that, we always put our angle measure, sine of 37 degrees equals, and then we're going to do O over H. So sine of the angle equals O over H. What is my O here? It is X. What is my H here? It is 18. Okay. Now we have an equation that we can solve. Notice how here, if we put a 1 on top, a 1 on bottom, we kind of have a cross multiplication situation going on. So this would multiply together, this would multiply together. 1 times x would just give us x, and then we'd multiply those together. So 18 times sine of 37 degrees. X is going to equal those multiplied together. So let's see what happens when you put those in the calculator. If you are using one of these calculators or wherever you're using it, you need to make sure that you are in degrees, not radians. Okay? Degrees, not radians. So whatever calculator you're using, if it doesn't turn out the same answer that I do, you probably need to change the settings somehow in order for that to be degrees. So 18 times sine of 37 would give me that. So 10.8327. We are always going to round to the nearest tenth. So that means only one number behind the decimal. So we have 8 right here. We only change it if this number behind it is 5 or greater. 3 is less than 5, so we're good. So we're just going to do 10.8. Okay, so x equals 10.8. That is the value of that side right there. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Cosine. Same process. Let's do this one again. Hopefully this is starting to click for you. Cosine of A. This is not O over H still, so let's look. This is adjacent over hypotenuse. So which of these sides is adjacent to A? It's this one right here. It's right next to it. So this is A. And then over hypotenuse, which is 5. So this would be 3 over 5. And then let's do cosine of B. A, this is my adjacent, this is my hypotenuse. So it'd be 4 over 5. Again, review 8.1 if you're struggling with that. Okay, let's take a look here. Obviously, we're going to use cosine, but let me prove it to you. If this is my angle measure, this is my reference point, so this would be opposite. Opposite. This would be hypotenuse, this would be adjacent. Okay, so which one is obviously not going to be used? O, because this side is blank. There's nothing to fill in. So A and H, we used cosine. So let's make our equation. Very similar to what we did here. That kind of used this as a model. COS, what is my angle measure? 42 degrees. See how that's very similar? Equals something over something. Well, A is X. 815 is on the bottom. That's H. Okay, we're going to kind of use the same method, right? I mean, we can do the cross multiplying, but basically all that's happening, right, is you're going to have 15 times cosine of 42 degrees. Essentially, you're just going to multiply those two together, right? Let's see what we get. X equals 15 times cosine of 42. 15 times cosine of 42. We'd get 11.1472. That is going to simplify to 11.1, okay, because 1 is right here. 4 is still less than 5, so it does not round up. Okay, let's keep going. Tangent. Hopefully this is starting to feel pretty good for you. Tangent of A, if that is my reference point. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So what is opposite A? 4. What is adjacent to A? 3. So we'd have 4 over 3. Tangent of B. Okay, what is opposite B? 3. What is adjacent to B? 4. So they just flip 3 over 4. That's how you'll find tangent works. Okay. What about this one? Guys, it's the same process, I promise. So if you're like, man, Mr. Colson, I think I'm killing it, maybe skip ahead a little bit while I do some more examples later. But this is my angle, so this is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent. Hypotenuse I'm not using. So I use O and A. Which one uses O and A? Tangent. So I would have tangent of my angle measure, which is 29 degrees, equals O over A, X over 10. Multiply those together, I'd get X equals 10 times tangent of 29. Okay, I could have put tangent 29 first. Let me show you how that looks in the calculator. That's the same thing. So if you have one of these kind of calculators, you have tangent of 29. But then notice I need to make sure I scroll over and I multiply outside the parentheses. So I'm not going to do times 10. That's not right. I need to do tangent of 29, close parentheses, times 10. Okay. That's the same thing as 10 times tan 29. Same thing, just different order. No big deal. Either way, I get 5.54309. That would reduce to, or that would simplify to just 5.5 because 4 is still less than 5. So in none of those situations did we actually round up, but hopefully there will be an example maybe on the next page where we round up. All right. Okay, so turn it over. This should now be page 6, I believe. Page 6. Let's look at a few more examples. All right. What I like to do is I like to rewrite SOHCAHTOA at the front, at the top. I always want to have SOHCAHTOA on my mind. After a while, that just will become memorized, but you need to have that. So let's read this. If you know at least one angle in one side of a right triangle, you can find other sides. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So this situation, we know one angle and one side, we can find the other side. We're going to just do the exact same process we've been doing. Nothing's changing. All right? Let's do this. So if this is my angle, remember we cannot use the right angle because it has to be one of the acute angles. It just doesn't work. What is opposite this angle? This is opposite. Okay, what is the hypotenuse? It's across from the right angle. And then this is adjacent. So that's kind of how I like to do it. I like to find opposite. Hypotenuse is pretty easy to find. Adjacent's just the other one. Adjacent's kind of the trickiest one sometimes. So once we have that labeled, I'm going to cover up with my finger the one that I don't need. Everyone notice how hypotenuse is blank. That side right there is completely blank, so I don't need it. What uses O and A? TOA. TOA. All right, so let's make an equation out of that. Tangent of 53 degrees equals opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 24. Same situation. I'm going to multiply these together. I get x equals 24 times tangent of 53 degrees. Let's see what we get. 24 times tangent. And at this point, you might be thinking, Mr. Colson, I kind of get this. Like you've done enough examples. So if you're there, I would scroll down to where I start doing number 4, because number 4, there's a slight difference. So don't just stop watching the video. I would scroll down to where I do number 4. 4, 5, and 6 are a little bit different. Okay, but I'm going to keep doing 1, 2, and 3 for those of you who still need it. So this one would be 31.8491. Okay. 8 is the number I'm looking at. 4 is still less than 5. So I'm going to have 31.8 still. All right, let's try this one. This is my angle. This is going to be opposite. Hypotenuse, adjacent. Okay, so cover up the one that's blank. See how adjacent has nothing there. O and H. This is going to be sine. So sine of the angle 51 degrees equals x over 63. As you can see, x is still on top, so I'm not even going to do all that. I'm just going to get x equals 63 times sine of 51 degrees. Hopefully y'all are kind of seeing that pattern at this point, that I don't really need to, show the cross multiplication. X equals 63 times sine of 51. 63 times sine of 51. 48.9602. All right, so now we've finally arrived at one where we're going to round. Okay, so the number we're looking at is 9. Is 9 going to go up? That's the question. If you look behind it, 6 is greater than 5. 5 or greater. So this is actually going to make this a 0, which makes this 49.0. So 48.96 rounds to 49.0. Okay. If you're struggling with rounding, there's some really good videos on YouTube, I'm sure, if you kind of want a refresher on that, but this is not a lesson on rounding, so hopefully you're feeling pretty good about that. Okay. This is my angle measure. Across from that is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent. Okay, so hopefully by this point you should know which one is useless. O is useless. A and H we use cosine. A over H. We'd have cosine of 28 degrees equals A, x, over H, 44. All right, let me show you cross multiplying one more time. X equals 44 times cosine of 28 degrees. Let's see what happens here. 44 times cosine of 28. 38.8497. X equals 38.8. That is your answer. Notice how I did not round because 4 is less than 5. Okay, I know I went through those fast, so if you need to kind of, maybe rewind it, kind of go through them slower, feel free to do so. But it gets pretty simple. All right. 4, 5, and 6 are a little bit different. Let's talk about this difference. Let me use a different color just so you can remember it. 4, 5, and 6, a little bit different. Make sure you're paying attention with these. Okay. Still the same idea. This is my angle. Across from my angle is the opposite side. Across from the 90-degree angle is the hypotenuse. This is A. Okay, same idea. A is useless because it's blank. So what do we use for O and H? Sine. Okay, sine. So we would have sine of 63 degrees equals O, 43, over H, X. All right. Now, take a second. Look at our equations. They look pretty similar, right? In this one, X was on the top. In this one, is X on the top? No, X is on the bottom. So, let's see what happens here. Let's still cross multiply. Let's put this over 1. 1 times 43 would give us 43 equals X times sine of 63 degrees. So if you'll notice at this point, guys, X is not by itself. It's not by itself. Okay? So in this situation, we're actually going to need to divide both sides by sine of 63 degrees to get X by itself. So actually, X equals 43 divided by sine of 63. Okay? So, let's check this out. In this one, if X is on top, we just multiply these together. Multiply. Boom. Multiply them together. We keep going. Here, we're actually going to switch these, if you'll notice. Instead of multiplying 43 times sine of 63, notice how sine of 63 ends up on the bottom of the fraction. It's being divided by itself. So we're going to use that kind of going forward on these next two. But here's what we're going to have in our calculator. We're going to have 43 divided by sine of 63. We would get 48.26. Okay, let's simplify that. Let's reduce that. We get X equals 48.3 because 6 is going to round 2 up. 6 is greater than 5. Okay? All right, let's take a look at number 5. This is my angle. This is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent. Okay, what is useless? O is useless, so we're going to have cosine because we have A and H. We'd have cosine of 41 degrees equals A, which is 48, over X. So notice, guys, we have the same situation. Instead of doing all that cross multiplying, here's what I want you to do. If X is on the bottom, I just want you to switch these out. So we'd left with X equals 48 divided by cosine of 41 degrees. That's all I did. Where I saw cosine of 41 is now X. Where I saw X is now cosine of 41. I just switched them. No big deal. Let's see what we get when we put that in the calculator. We're going to get 48 divided by cosine of 41. We get 63.6006. Okay. X is going to equal, I don't believe that rounds, so 63.6 is what I got for that one. Okay, last one. Hopefully you're getting it by now. This is my angle. This is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent. So hypotenuse is worthless. That's blank. Okay. We have O and A. That is going to be TOA, tangent. So tangent of my angle, which is 27 degrees, equals O, 101 over A, X. Okay. We are in the similar situation. X is on bottom. See how X was on bottom every single time? When X was on top, what happened? We multiplied these together. We multiplied these together. But when X is on the bottom, we're just going to flip them. X equals 101 times tan 27. X equals 101 divided by tan 27. Let's see. 198.224. X is going to equal 198.2 is what I got. Okay. Now those are answers, guys. So you will now do pages 7 through 8 for your practice. Guys, it's really not too bad. You totally got this. It's basically just a bunch of the same stuff that we've been doing. Numbers 1 through 4, beware, you're just finding the ratio. So numbers 1 through 4 are more like these problems. I'm just looking for a ratio. I'm just looking for a fraction, something over something. Now the rest of them, 5 through 18, are like the ones we've been doing. Okay, where you're actually going to find the value of x. Sound good? You guys totally got this. Hope you have a great day.